All right, remember our mantra. Don't split the party.
It's too bad we lost the barbarian because he was too stupid and ran off on his own, but at least we have Gary the intern to fill in.
I'm always happy to partner with my fellow teammates in an effort to overcome the challenging circumstances we often find ourselves in.
Indeed, it is always sad to lose a fellow adventurer, but he did have it coming.
So, after disposing of the barbarian's lifeless body, you all hear noises in the tunnel ahead.
Cool! I'm gonna sneak ahead and go check it out. I'll be right back, guys.
No, wait! Don't split the party!
Yeah, we should all go together. Far safer that way.
Okay, fine. But this is a bad idea. You are all loud butts.
Very well, the group begins sneaking down the tunnel together. Everybody make stealth checks.
I got a 15.
I got the 13, but Fat Cat got a nat 20.
Right, but what's the modified roll for Fat Cat?
It's 15.
I'm not very good at stealth. A 9 here.
Well, me neither. I have disadvantage on my stealth roll, so, that gives me a 3.
Holy crap, you people suck. I got a 27.
As you all sneak down the tunnel, some of you are quieter than others.
Yeah, no crap, morons.
And you manage to alert multiple rooms of enemies. And as a multitude of foes descend upon you, they spot all of you except for the rogue and attack. Rogue, hiding in the shadows, you observe all your companions go down before you. And then, as they lie there bleeding out, all of the enemies leave.
So, they're still alive then?
Just barely. There's probably still time to feed them healing potions and save their lives.
No, that's okay. I'm just gonna loot their bodies.
Welcome to the DM Lair. I'm Lucar, and I've been a Dungeon Master since high school. On this channel, I give practical Dungeon Master advice that you can implement at your game table. Now, last week we talked about why splitting the party is often a bad idea, but today in the Lair, we're going to be discussing why running a split party from time to time can be a good thing. Specifically, I'm going to touch on reasons to split the party, tips for running a split party, and pitfalls to avoid. Remember too, if you have questions about this topic or anything else D&D or Dungeon Master related, feel free to swing by any of my live streams. I stream Mondays and Wednesdays and Fridays at 6 p.m. Eastern US time. There's a link below to my Twitch channel. You can also join my Discord server, link below, where lots of other fine Dungeon Masters, many of them far more experienced than I am, can also help you out. Reasons to split the party. The first big reason a Dungeon Master might want to split the party intentionally is for a change of pace. Yes, I did advocate for keeping the party together for a variety of reasons last week, but sometimes things get stale, and doing something a little different can be loads of fun for your players. Perhaps you design a heist scenario, a true heist scenario, not like this one, and the only way to accomplish the objective is for 2 or 3 groups of characters to work simultaneously to accomplish objectives in different areas of a dwarven-run bank. Or there are 2 groups of enemies assaulting a fortification, and the players can choose between everyone sticking together and risking one group of the bad guys getting in, or splitting the party and trying to stop them both. Perhaps you'd like to run something special for one of your players, delving deeper into their character's backstory. Something like this might make sense to run a split party for, so that character can interact with the situation by themselves. Next, at town during downtime. It is normal for characters to split up during their downtime and for their little shopping sprees after carting loads of gold back from their last adventure to town. This gives players the opportunity to pursue things of interest to themselves without having to coordinate it with the desires of the rest of the players. Oh, this reminds me of a juicy little story. My Sword Coast Guard players once came back to town and split up to pursue downtime activities by themselves. And their cruel, horrible dungeon master had them all get attacked by drow assassins, who, yes, were evil. While the characters were all split up, and wouldn't you know it, 2 of them were defeated and taken prisoner. The drow then held them captive to that's a hard word, to coerce the other characters into doing what the drow demanded. Naturally, this provided a wonderful opportunity for the characters who were not captured to give the drow the middle finger, kill them all, and rescue their companions. It was a cool little side adventure. Of course, there are other situations where it feels natural to split up as well. For instance, the group is on an adventure that is mostly full of social situations, such as gathering information at a masquerade ball. Or the rogue wants to scout ahead by himself to maximize the chances of success.
Yeah, it's a little late for that.
Overall, my point is that it's okay to run a split party from time to time, and there are good reasons for doing so. You just want to make sure you're doing it properly. How to run a split party. The most important thing for running a split party is keeping the entertainment value high for everyone at the table. You want it to be fun for all your players, not just those currently in the spotlight. This is also the hardest part of running a split party, but here's how you do it. Constantly rotate among the different groups, slowly progressing each group's storyline. For example, last week I told you the story of when the Sword Coast Guard had to infiltrate the crypts below Gauntlet Hall. The wizard turned invisible by sneaking into the crypts by himself, while the other characters spoke with the knights and provided a distraction. When I was running those scenes, I was constantly jumping from the wizard's scene of exploring the crypts and the other scene of the characters receiving a sermon from the High Priest of Torm. 5 minutes running the wizard's scene in the crypts, then jump to the chapel for the other scene. 5 minutes there, then back to the crypts. You see, when you constantly jump back and forth, slowly progressing each scene, it helps your players stay engaged and interested in what's going on. And another thing I suggest doing too is trying as much as possible to pause a scene and move to the other at a dramatic point. For instance, just as the wizard opens the door to one tomb, I describe shuffling sounds in the room beyond, but then pop over to the chapel to run that scene for a bit. This makes the entire table tense with anticipation, wondering what the shuffling is. But I'm not gonna tell them until after this scene. This, of course, is the same thing that movies, miniseries, and books do all the time to hold the audience's attention, cutting to a different scene just when suspense is high on the current scene. By the way, this is also a great way to end a game session on a dramatic and suspenseful point. What you don't want to do, Dungeon Masters, is spend a half an hour or more on one scene and leave the rest of the players at your table who aren't in that scene bored out of their minds. This is when you're going to see dice towers being built, phones whipping out, and players calling their moms. So please, just spare your players that experience. A lot of people are like, but Luke, I love my mom. Okay, that's fine. Call them after the game. I love my mom too. Yeah, sorry. Maybe this is just me, and maybe I'm just a little bit crazy, but I suspect that most players show up to a D&D game with the expectation that they'll actually be playing the game, not just watching someone else play it. Which leads me to my next point. Keep the time the party is split up to a minimum. D&D is designed to be a group game, so it usually shines the most when it's played as a group. That said, if you're running a special scenario or adventure that involves a split party, I can see having extended periods of PCs being split up. But this should be the exception, not the rule. Another suggestion for running split parties, especially when the split is going to last for a while, run separate game sessions for the different groups. Dude, if you know the two parts of the group are going to be split apart for like 3 game sessions, then splitting up and running the scenarios separately might make sense. This, of course, is twice as much work for the Dungeon Master, and I'm never too keen on things that involve adding more work to the Dungeon Master, but for the short term, okay, maybe not a big deal. Also, players who are not present will miss out on the story that unfolds, even though you could argue that their characters weren't present, so it should be okay for the players to not know what happened. However, we both know that the players will then probably want to take large chunks of table time later to recount everything that happened while everyone was split up, which kind of begs the question of why run separate groups in the first place. And then of course you have to go through the scheduling exercise of finding different times when the groups can play, which is a big pain in the butt. But hey, don't listen to my naysaying. Talk with your players and maybe it's something you all want to do. Remember, my way is not always the right way. Sometimes you should ignore the guy with the big mouth. Pitfalls of running a split party. The Lone Ranger character who always wants to go off on their own. They never want to stick with the party. They always seem to have their own goals and priorities. justifying their wanton stealing of the spotlight as, "That's what my character would do." Dungeon Masters, if you find yourself in this situation, you're not dealing with a split party. You're dealing with a player who doesn't want to play a group game and possibly wants to derail the entire game for everyone else. I would talk with the player, asking them to change their character's motivations and goals so that they do want to stick with the group. If the player resists, I ask them to roll up a new character, one that wants to stick with the group. And if the player continues to resist and our game sessions are becoming miserable, I ask the player to find a new group. Surely there is a dungeon master and group of players somewhere that is willing to put up with that sort of horse crap. But it's not me, and it's not my group. When the rogue scouts ahead, disabling traps, unlocking doors, backstabbing foes, and looting entire rooms, all by themselves. If this is constantly happening, then the rest of the players aren't even able to play the game. They just sit there and watch from the sidelines while the min-maxed OP Gloomstalker Ranger Rogue does everything. And this, of course, is not fun for the other players at the table. So again, this is a conversation where you explain to the player that they need to provide an opportunity for everyone to play the game, even though their min-maxed OP Gloomstalker Ranger Rogue could technically solo the entire dungeon. Yeah, Wizards, can we talk about how powerful it is to give a class permanent invisibility? Like, I know you designed this game and stuff and you're like the professionals, but I feel like we should talk about this. One part of the split party just happens to get all of the loot and then decides not to share. Yeah, this is a huge pitfall and can legitimately lead to players getting pissed off out of character. Once again, I suggest talking with your players to work this out and make sure everything is equitable. It's amazing how so many things can be resolved by talking about it. The perpetually split party. Each character has their own goals, their own villain, and their own storyline. In fact, no one is ever together as a group. The thing we call an adventuring party, yeah, it just kind of doesn't exist in a game like this. And for groups like this, I gotta ask you a simple question. Why are you even at the same game table together? Like, you're not running a group game, so why even be together as a group? Wouldn't it be more fun for the individual players if the Dungeon Master were to run several one-on-one campaigns? It would mean less waiting around doing nothing, less time on the phones, less time having to call your mothers. I probably gotta stop making this call your mothers joke before folks start to think I have a mommy problem or something. I really do love my mother. Don't forget to follow me over on Twitch for some chill live streams where we hang out, talk D&D, and even paint minis together. Let me know why and how you run split parties. Next week, I'll be giving the top tips for players from their Dungeon Master's point of view. But until then, click right here to watch my Don't Split the Party video. And until next time, let's play D&D. And split the party!